Today, we're going to dig into one of the most fundamental human puzzles out there, influence. Why is it that some people can just talk and we hang on their every word, while other people, no matter how smart they are, no matter how good their intentions, just can't seem to get through to us? Well, the answers are way deeper and honestly more surprising than you might think. It's a question we've all asked, right? It echoes everywhere, from the boardroom to the dinner table. You've got something important to say, a piece of advice that could really genuinely help someone, but it just falls flat. It's the super common frustration, but what if the problem isn't what we're saying at all? Just think about this classic scenario for a second. A parent, right? They've got all this life experience, they've got nothing but love, and they try to guide their kid. And what do they get back? An eye roll, maybe an argument, or just silence. This isn't just about a generational gap. It's a perfect real-world example of influence just completely breaking down. Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. Why don't they listen? Most of us assume that, maybe our logic wasn't good enough, or maybe we just said it the wrong way. But the real answer? It has way less to do with being right and everything to do with this hidden psychological framework that basically controls who we decide is worth listening to.
This right here, this is the whole thing. You could have the most perfect, logical, life-changing advice in the world, and it's completely useless if the foundation isn't there first. See, we don't just hear words in a vacuum. We filter everything through how we see the person who's speaking. The big takeaway is this. You have to build that foundation before you ever try to give the advice.
So, if it's all about the foundation, how in the world do we build it? Well, it turns out there are two incredibly powerful kind of unspoken secrets to getting someone to actually truly listen. And they operate on two totally different levels. One is external and the other is deeply internal. And once you get these two, it changes everything.
All right, so influence basically splits into these two big forces. First, you've got the external one, aspiration. It's simple. We instinctively listen to people who have already achieved something we want. And then there's the internal one, perceived love. This one is way more subtle, and it's all about our emotional investment in a relationship. The aspiration factor is actually super straightforward. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a swimming pool, and you have no idea how to swim. You're not going to argue with the instructor's technique, are you? Of course not. Why? Because they embody the result you want. Their reality is your goal. So their words have immense weight. That's influence in its purest form. Now, let's get into that internal factor, perceived love. This is where it gets really fascinating and a little complicated. Our brains have this kind of unconscious rule. We believe the person who loves us more is the one who should listen to us. So a parent feels they love their child more, and so they expect their child to listen. But what happens when both people in a relationship, say a husband and wife, each feel that they are the one giving more love? You get a stalemate. It's an endless conflict where both people are basically shouting, "Listen to me," and neither one is willing to be the listener. So aspiration and perceived love, those are the two big keys to just being heard. But that's only the first step, right? What about getting people to actually agree with you? To get to that point of consensus? Well, that requires moving beyond just those two secrets and building a much more complete structure. A structure that's built on 4 distinct pillars. Getting someone to just nod their head in agreement is a much, much higher bar than just getting their attention. It means you have to build this compelling case that's not just based on one thing, but on 4 interconnected elements that appeal to a person's goals, their heart, their mind, and their morals, all at the same time. And here they are. The structure starts with the 2 secrets we just talked about, having an aspirational life and establishing perceived love. But then you have to add 2 more layers on top. The third is reason. Is your argument actually logical? Does it make sense? And the fourth is righteousness. Is what you're saying morally and ethically the right thing to do? When you have all 4 of these pillars standing strong, your influence becomes unbelievably powerful. This brings us to this kind of ultimate ideal of influence, an archetype that's sometimes called the master, or say in Vietnamese.
Now, this isn't just about being an expert in something. This is about being someone who embodies all these principles of influence so completely that they can create real, lasting change in the world. So, what exactly is a master in this sense? Well, it's someone who has basically nailed a trifecta of skills. First, they can produce real value. Second, they know how to distribute that value out to the world. And third, and this is crucial, they can educate other people to replicate their success. It's the full circle of impact.
A true master is playing in all three of these domains at once. They are a producer. They're the one creating the brilliant idea or the amazing product. They're also a distributor. They know how to get it into people's hands. And finally, they're an educator. They teach the principles behind it all so that the value can just keep multiplying long after they're gone.
And this is just such a critical point. I mean, think about all the brilliant minds throughout history. Geniuses who are incredible producers, but they failed in the other two areas. Their expertise was off the charts, but their impact was small because their knowledge wasn't shared or taught effectively, so it basically just died with them. Real, lasting influence requires you to master all three. And now, we get to the final and maybe the most important piece of wisdom in all of this. Because you know what? True mastery of influence isn't just about knowing how to persuade someone. It's about knowing when and with whom to even bother trying. Let me explain this with a strange little story. So, a guy gets into a fight, he gets beaten up, and he's dragged in front of a judge. And the reason for the fight? He was arguing with another guy about a simple math problem, that 2 times 3 equals 6. He's the victim, obviously, right? He was just stating a fact. But then, the judge does something absolutely shocking. He listens to the story, and he lets the guy who was wrong, the one who thought 2 times 3 equals 4, he lets him go free. And he sentences the man who was right. And his reasoning? The person who's ignorant isn't the real problem. The crime, the real foolishness, was wasting your time and energy arguing with him in the first place. This gets at the absolute highest level of wisdom when it comes to influence. The punishment wasn't for being factually wrong. It was for a total lack of judgment. It was for failing to see that you cannot force-feed knowledge to someone whose mind is already closed. Your energy is precious. You have to spend it where it can actually make a difference. So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. We spend so much of our lives learning how to build our arguments, how to perfect our pitch. But maybe the real art of influence, the true sign of mastery, isn't about the power of your words at all, but about the wisdom to know whose ears are actually ready to hear them.